Third day in Malaysia, and I'm at the hospital again, but don't worry. It's just an excuse to show you what normal life looks like and how much it costs in Malaysia. In this episode, we'll go on a family shopping trip. I'll show you a place where you can get the iconic, authentic coconut shake, and I'll also talk about the problems that are troubling Europe and explain why they're a trigger to start thinking about a plan B today. This will also serve as an introduction to the extremely important topic of real estate in Malaysia. Put everything aside, because this episode is more than just an ordinary holiday story. This is content that will give you something to think about and might change your future. Another day, and once again, on the way to the hospital, there we grabbed some delicious coffee from the vending machine, and as you can see, the prices are very reasonable. It's already the third day in Malaysia, but today I'm recording this at 4 o'clock, my friends. It just so happens that since the morning, I've basically been working at home. A bit on the balcony, a bit on the patio, and a bit in my brother's room, so I could turn on the air conditioning and sit in the cool air. As for all those reports about the magnetic resonance imaging I had yesterday, the 40-minute one, we've already talked to the doctor after the scans. We just know that it's simply healing and it's going to hurt for a while longer. And in total, I paid for it. How much did I pay?
1,400 Malaysian ringgit, 1435.
I paid 1,435 Malaysian ringgit. I'll show you exactly what the breakdown looks like, how much everything cost. You can compare these prices to what they are in Poland. The consultation, x-rays, 2, actually 3 in total because it's the left and right hand, and just getting the 40-minute magnetic resonance imaging well, that also costs quite a bit. Altogether, that's what makes up this expense. Here there's also the whole summary, describing what happened, what's going on, what's wrong, and what's right. Because there were a lot of high-quality photos there, we have everything on a disc so we don't have to print it, so all the originals stay with me, I have access to them. And after the hospital, straight to a shake made from coconut. Apparently, this is one of the best and oldest places where you can get an original coconut shake. They don't have to look beautiful on the outside. What matters is that they're natural and tasty. This kind of shake tastes even better than it looks. I absolutely recommend it. So, almost the whole family, me, Dad, Mom, and my brother, are going to a store called Uniqlo because my sister bought a pair of pants that are too big. I know it sounds completely uninteresting, but I guess it might be interesting to observe normal life from the perspective of regular people living in Malaysia. So my sister bought the pants. They don't really fit, and at Uniqlo they cost 300 ringgit, which is almost 300 zloty, about 250 zloty. A lot of money. We're going to return them, but here it's just like in Poland. Even though we want to return them, you get a store credit for the same amount, or up to that amount, to use in the store. So we won't get the money back, so everyone comes to pick something else for themselves. That's how it works, right? Nice t-shirts. The prices are pretty reasonable, let's say, around 59, and the material is really nice. That's cool. 59 ringgit, that's about 50 or 55 zloty. Shirts, on the other hand, are 129, but it is an expensive store. Pokemon t-shirts for 40 zloty, cat ones for the same price. It's pretty expensive here. Everyone is still in the store browsing around. I don't really like anything in this Uniqlo, so I stepped outside to get some air. It's just after 5 p.m. It's nice, cool, 31 degrees, but somehow it feels cool. But later, I'd like to talk with you about different types of buildings and of course houses here in Malaysia, because there's one striking difference. In Europe, we have a negative birth rate, meaning fewer children are being born than people passing away. But here in Malaysia, the birth rate is positive. And that's quite a decisive issue when it comes to possibly buying property or planning your life, and also who will be earning money for our pensions.
Because let's not kid ourselves, that's how it is.
So I still managed to talk about that. I hope that in this part of the material, and now everyone has already left, so see you in the next shot. Unfortunately, the thread was interrupted before it could be finished, but that's what you have your devoted, trusted narrator for, right?
I wanted to say that Poland is depopulating the fastest among all European countries.
For several years now, the population across the entire continent has been decreasing, and just this year, the number of inhabitants will drop by 500,000. Sure, there are still quite a lot of us left, but the average age keeps rising.
In 2025, it will already exceed 43 years, and what will it be like in 20 or 30 years?
Low birth rates, combined with an aging society, create serious challenges for pension and social care systems. A smaller number of young people entering the labor market will have to support an increasing number of retirees, and this will undoubtedly lead to financial and economic strains. And yes, I know that today hardly anyone even wants to think about it. We are young, beautiful, strong, but even now I observe that the standard of living in Ireland has been steadily deteriorating for several years. It might be 5 or 10% lower than the year before, but if this process lasts for 20 years, the end result could be absolutely dramatic. When we reach our 50s or 60s, it might already be too late to make any clever economic moves. I know very well that it's comfortable to lie down and relax after work these days, because we deserve it. But as long as we can still change something, I think it's worth stepping out of our comfort zone and taking care of a plan B, which can really pay off. Looking at what's happening in Europe, at what the politicians are doing, I really don't have any trust. Every empire had its moment of glory, and each one, as we know, fell. That's not a rumor, it's a historical fact. Will the same thing happen to Europe? No, I don't know that, but one thing is certain. It's not worth putting all your eggs in one basket. If the country you live in is doing well, that's great, I absolutely wish you that. But if things fall apart, it's really worth having a backup plan. And the farther away, the better. Does Malaysia look like a third-rate country? I don't think so. And this time, we came with 5 people to buy shampoo while shopping. But we'll also see more or less what's there. The parking lots are, of course, huge and full of Perodua cars. Another one. There's a lot of them. The first thing that caught my attention here was the Huawei Mate X6. A very interesting little smartphone. Although I still prefer the regular form factor of phones myself, this one really fits well in the hand. You can get it in Poland too. The price is basically the same after conversion. We're at the sweets section and my mom bought my favorite cookies. You could say they're absolutely amazing. Even though I try to limit sweets, these seemingly unremarkable little hats are worth the sin. Not too sweet, but satisfying. But we bought a few of these healthy eggs here, long cooked in a broth containing tea, soy sauce, star anise, cinnamon, Sichuan pepper, and other herbs. Well, as it turns out, the shampoo shop was closed, so we're packing up and heading home now. And as you can guess, with my beloved's parents, there was no way to go home without stopping for food. We dropped by the food court. We've been here before. It doesn't look like much, but the place is actually pretty good. There's a lot to choose from. I got nasi lemak for myself for 11 ringgit. In general, you can see that these kinds of decent dishes go for about 10 or 11 ringgit, which is between 9 and 10 zloty. Here you can see what such a portion looks like in reality. And here is the herbal egg, a really interesting taste. Now to drink, we had carrot juice, but I have to tell beer lovers that beer in Malaysia is very, very expensive. Between 15 and 20 zlotys per bottle. The snacks, on the other hand, are much cheaper, and something like this after lunch is really tempting. After we got home, my beloved's dad suggested that we have some fresh coconut. Here you can see what the process of opening it looks like. First, the base is shaped so that it can stand without tipping over. Next, the sides are trimmed from the other side. It takes a bit of effort. Dad hasn't done this in years either, but as you can see, he's doing it quite skillfully. Next, the top is cut out. There's no need to rush here. After all, we don't want to spill anything, and every drop counts, especially since the fruit is completely filled with water. Gently pry it open, and there you go, we have access. I don't think we lost even a drop. Now just add a straw and you can drink. But that's not the end. After drinking, you can enlarge the hole and use a spoon to scoop out the delicate jelly-like coconut filling. You have to remember that this is a very young coconut, or actually a drupe, which is why this layer is so thin, but it's definitely a very nice, natural, and above all, healthy treat. There's very little sweetness in it, almost none at all, about 6 grams per 100, but it all depends on the ripeness. The sun is just rising in Malaysia, and on this 4th day of our stay, we're finally going to talk about what interests you most: real estate. Both the new and old houses are located in the city area of Bamban, which is in the state of Malacca in the Yasin district. The apartment we bought is in Kuala Lumpur, so that's a completely different world, but maybe it's worth starting by showing what the garden looks like in the old house in a small Malaysian town. It's morning, It's around 9 o'clock. We got up recently and we're still a bit sleepy, but taking advantage of the fact that it's pretty quiet in the house right now because my parents went out for breakfast, my brother too, and my sisters are at work, so we can walk around here without too much noise. I wanted to show you around the garden because what grows here probably wouldn't grow very well in a Polish garden. What we have here is chili, although it might look a bit like tomatoes, at least to me, but it turns out these are actually chili bushes. Next, we have this young tree over there, which is a papaya. There aren't any fruits yet, but they will come. Here we have, if I'm not mistaken, a flower. I completely forgot the name. Something starting with P. What was the Chinese name?
富贵花.
Fukuihua. So this is the flower. Mom likes it a lot. It has, as you can see, an interesting root. That's all I can say. Sorry, I really don't know anything about gardening. But since it's interesting, it would be worth showing you around, right? Here, of course, we still have this flower. Here we have a tree with this kind of fruit. It's a fruit we ate in Vietnam. So they're slowly growing here, and there's one on the top of a branch. Some more. This, my dear friends, as you can see from the spikes, is a pineapple. Here, it's just a little seedling. It'll probably grow bigger, because why not? Moving on, what you see here, this big one, is nothing other than a coconut tree. We can also see that there are no fruits on it yet, but those will appear in time as well. However, here you can see a much bigger papaya, which has plenty of fruits on it. You can see that this one is slowly ripening more and more, starting to get some color. There are plenty of them, very dense. At the top, new, fresh ones are just appearing. So that's what this tree looks like. These leaves are pandan leaves. I think we ate a cake with them yesterday. A very interesting smell. And over there is yam. You can also make a kind of sweet jam from it. It's interesting in taste, very popular in this region of the world. And it's worth stopping here for a moment, because if I saw this plant on the street, I would think it's just some big grass, not a delicious base for a cake. And yet, pandan cake is a beloved dessert in Malaysia. It is valued for its intense, aromatic flavor and soft, fluffy texture. If you get the chance, you absolutely have to try it. It's an absolute classic, just as essential as Polish poppy seed cake or chocolate loaf cake. One more thing, I almost forgot about the ginger. Look, it's growing in the sand. It's not too wet here, just slightly damp. But you can see that when it's buried like this, it sends out these delicate shoots and it'll start growing from there. It should be buried kind of like this. And in this kind of climate, it grows beautifully here. All right, but imagine that you live in a country where it's very warm. Every day it's about 30, 32 degrees. At night the temperature drops maybe to 25, 27, sometimes to 23. What do you do in such a house? Is air conditioning the only solution? Well, definitely not. It's worth having air conditioning, and basically every room has its own air conditioning, but there are other ways to ventilate a room to maintain a relatively, maybe not as pleasant temperature as with air conditioning, but definitely much better. Let me show you. Here's the whole command center. As you can see, the equipment is already quite old. This air conditioner is over 20 years old, something like that. Here is also the control for the fan that's on the ceiling. We have 5 speeds. There's also a separate switch to turn it off. However, this button here controls the extractor. As you can see, the extractor is quite large. I don't know exactly how many centimeters. It's hard to access it. And this fan pulls air from the whole house, you could say. Or at least here, there's a bathroom, right? And of course, the air conditioning. This is the old air conditioner, but it still works just fine. Right now it's turned off, it's morning. Outside it's about 24 degrees. Maybe you can see it. So it's not bad. Just having the fan and the exhaust on is enough. Sorry, the ventilator and the exhaust. In the kitchen area, basically, that's the kitchen area, you could say. Here is kind of a hallway. And further on, there's also the living room. And as you can see, there's one fan. There's another fan over there. Here is also a very old but working fan. There's an exhaust over there. And in the kitchen, we have another exhaust. So this gives constant access to fresh air. The window here is closed, but over there in the laundry area, you could say it's open. Basically, there's one more bathroom here, so there are 3 bathrooms and 4 bedrooms in this house. But like I said, I remind you that we're in an old house. And one more thing, the ceilings are definitely quite high. I can't reach it. In Ireland, I can partially touch the ceiling on my tiptoes. Here, that's not an option. Of course, that's so there's room for the fans.
If you have a higher room, it's cooler, there's more access to air, and it's more comfortable during such heat.
And here in the living room area, as you can see, there's also a much bigger air conditioner, more efficient.
I don't know if it's 3.5 kW or more.
There's another extractor over there. Here's the fan. And here, as you can see, the door is open. Keytech would like to go out. There's also a little dog over there. This way, no animals can get in here. And here we have access to, let's say, fresh air from here, which is constantly being extracted by these various vents located in every room, in every space, 2 in the bathroom, just as you saw yourselves. And here, well, this is a kind of altar that should basically be found in every Buddhist home to honor or remember those who have passed away. Maybe I'll say more about this on another occasion.
A bit away from the house, on the street, there's a beautiful tree stump that's in the process of natural biodegradation. Not long ago, there were rubber trees here. At least this part was covered with them all the way to the end, basically right next to the house. However, now they've been cut down. Somehow the government just decided so, since it belongs to them.
Will anything change here? It's hard to say, but let's go further. We'll take a closer look at what wild rubber trees look like. We're getting closer and closer to those few trees, but what caught my attention is that there are some coconuts growing here, and over here you can see banana trees. These huge leaves are actually banana trees. I'm probably showing you on the cutaways right now. Now, no one will doubt that we're in the tropics. The only thing missing here is a semi-transparent predator. A small correction, they don't grow wild, although it might seem that way because there's no fence, it is what it is. But here you can see some cups attached to a wire, you could say a container from which the rubber slowly drips down. Here's the incision, there's a piece of metal stuck in, and here you can see that it's dripping gently.
Meanwhile, in this bucket, there's already what has leaked out from the tree.
It's slowly getting close to 10 o'clock, so you could say we're already awake now. We took one car and right now we're going by ourselves to the Chinese doctor, who's supposed to take a look at my whole shoulder. With these results, we'll see what he says, whether he's able to help with its treatment in any way. But before that, we still need to refuel the car, because we're already getting close to empty. You could say it's less than 2 zlotys per liter, so here I see 2 ringgit, 050, which translates to about 1 zloty 80. I'll write exactly at the bottom how much a liter of fuel costs here. It used to be much cheaper, but still, if you compare it to the salaries people earn here and what we have in Poland, it's way cheaper.
Fuel prices in Malaysia are among the lowest in the region. This simple table gives you a lot to think about, because in Indonesia, Vietnam and Cambodia, people earn about 4 times less than in Malaysia, and as you can see, fuel is much more expensive there. In Thailand and the Philippines, people also earn less, but about 2 to 3 times less. Only Singapore and Hong Kong are wealthier countries, but the price of fuel there is even higher than in Poland. Something as simple and obvious as the cost of fuel has a huge impact on the standard of living.
It's not just about cheaper rides for teenagers and tuned-up protons.
When fuel is cheap, almost every sector of the economy has lower costs. Just think about it. Building a house is cheaper, food in supermarkets is cheaper, and eating out at restaurants is also cheaper.
Such low prices for 95 are possible thanks to government subsidies.
But the trick is that only residents can use it. As you can see, a receipt from the gas station.
We poured exactly 32 liters and a little bit more.
It came out to 65.62 in Malaysian ringgit. And that's exactly because we have a local car registered here in Malaysia with local plates. So we can use 95 and enjoy much lower prices. But if you have a car with different plates, then there's no option. You have to use 97, the more expensive one.
Still, Singaporeans regularly come to Malaysia to fill up with 97, which, although about twice as expensive as 95, is still extremely profitable for them. On this website, you can track historical fuel prices. The price of 2.05 ringgit per litre has remained unchanged for over 4 years. And what were the prices during the pandemic? Only 1.25 per litre, cheaper than water. From the gas station, we continued on toward Malacca. And if you were still wondering, the Grab app works here as well. Let's say we set a point for it to pick us up from here where we are, which is basically in the middle of an intersection. You see, the distance is quite large. Oh, the phone is sliding down, let's go. But even traveling such a distance, right now it would be 11 ringgit. So the prices are definitely much better, you could say, than in Poland. Well, surely the price of fuel is also quite decisive in this case. What is the distance? I don't know if it will be written here. But you see, it's not as cheap as it was in Vietnam. However, if there's a need, you can just grab a Grab and go somewhere. But notice that here, there's no option to choose a two-wheeler anymore. We have a car, and then food, some express deliveries, so that's definitely a significant difference. But as you can see, there are, of course, motorbikes and various two-wheelers on the roads here, but there aren't that many of them, or as many as elsewhere. Well, in Poland or even in Ireland, there are quite a lot of two-wheelers too, even though the weather doesn't really encourage it.
So we've arrived, maybe we're not in a shopping mall, but there's a kind of arcade behind us.
Actually, we've already been in this neighborhood before. Down there we once had a wedding, not ours, but my sister's. So I know the neighborhood, I recognize it. Behind me here is another tall building. And we're still here, or we've just arrived in the city called Malacca. Malacca, depending on whether we're speaking Malay or English. In Polish. Honestly, I don't know if it's Malacca or Malacca. Anyway, I'll find out someday. Here you can take a look at the prices in a Chinese natural medicine clinic. We came here for acupuncture, but as you can see, there are a lot of other treatments performed here. They were giving out bread at the reception and it was free. So what did I do? Of course, I took some. But seriously, it's a sample of bread with a very low glycemic index of just 35. Those who know what it's about will know what it's about. We just left with Dr. Practitioner. We had a chat. She checked the documents that the orthopedic doctor from this hospital gave us yesterday. She looked through those documents, looked at the images, looked at the magnetic resonance imaging pressed here and there a bit to check what's going on, how it's happening, and what kind of movement is being made. So then they had me lie down. They drew some blood from me, some amount of blood. Of course, they said I should have breakfast. We hadn't had breakfast yet, but it's okay. I was an honorary blood donor there, so almost half a liter. You feel okay. And here it was a smaller amount. However, well, they stuck those needles in. Some spots didn't hurt, but when they hit the spot that hurts, it hurt like hell. But, okay, the needle goes in pretty deep. I think it goes through the muscle all the way to the nerves, so the sensations are kind of okay. And it was also stuck into my hand. You'll see something in the cutaways. And then they ran electricity through all of that. So the sensation is really strange because let's say the muscle jumps on its own, it reacts to the electricity by itself, and you have to lie like that for 30 minutes. It's more of an uncomfortable position to lie like that. And then there's the fact that those needles are stuck in and the current is flowing. And depending on how you move, the current can get stronger. And at some point, it even started to sting a little. But we managed to deal with it somehow. So we had the session and I think we'll have to come back tomorrow as well. And now we're going to look for some breakfast around here. Yeah, we need to eat something. It's almost noon, so we'll see what interesting food we can find. Oh, and they definitely told me I can't eat sweets or any seafood. To which is no problem. I can avoid eating those, but sweets really. I got a simple breakfast for myself, nasi lemak. Nothing special, but for 9 ringgit, it's more than enough. My beloved, on the other hand, got herself something tastier. We're on the road again once more with Saley. As for the signal, from what I can see here, it's 4G+. So that's a pretty fast internet connection.
We'll check the data usage in a moment.
Saley is loading. There's still 3.5 gigabytes left, you see, so it really can save your internet if needed. And of course, we turned on data saving on the phone so that background updates or any other nonsense wouldn't happen, because why would we need that? We'll run the test now and see what it looks like. Here, navigation is needed all the time because things are happening, but I have the comfort that for once I'm not driving, so I can relax and have some fun. What do we see here? 40, 50, 60 megabits per second. It went a bit higher for a moment. We're about to get some result, and we're just standing here. At the red light, of course it's Perodua again. And what do we have here? Ah, Honda. These Hondas are nice. It's uploading. It came out to 64 over there. And here we'll see 40 is already showing up for me. Now the upload is at the top. 40 megabits. And as you can see, we're on H+, on Saley, so that's great. And we're in Malacca, so it's a city, you could definitely say that. After all, it has a population of 1 million, so if you're planning a long trip, you surely realize how important stable internet access is. Even if you haven't thought about Saley until now, since your operator already provides some roaming data package, how do you know how good or bad its coverage is? What if you suddenly end up without internet in a foreign country? Is it worth taking that risk? Better safe than sorry, and even a small Saley package can save the day here. That's why don't forget that with my channel you can get a 15% discount. Install the Saley app, log in or sign up, and you can browse the available packages for different countries. Think about how much data you need and press continue. In the coupon field, enter TMHD and you'll see that it will reduce the final price by 15%. With a bigger package like that, it's like getting a good meal in Malaysia for free. Leave a like if you enjoy saving like this. It's also worth mentioning that using roaming with your operator can consume significantly more data. Why does this happen? Well, your operator downloads and displays all the ads you encounter while browsing the internet. If you want, Saley can block them. That way, you don't waste valuable megabytes. This feature saves nearly 29% of your data package. We're on another shopping trip and we're still looking for that shampoo from yesterday. With all due respect to my beloved, but after that acupuncture, I don't really feel up to it, so I'll stay downstairs. Oh, there's even a second Volkswagen here. We're done shopping. I looked at some mattresses out of boredom, and that's basically it. We paid 1 ringgit for parking because we spent more than an hour here. And now we're heading home for a bit, and I think we're taking my beloved's parents. We're picking up the keys to the new house, and finally we'll see what the new house looks like. Do you remember those cookies that my beloved's mom bought at the mall? I just started working on them. Look at how they look. Absolutely delicious cookies. I'm about to get them. But I wanted to show you the brand. Something like childhood biscuits, basically biscuit, traditional recipes. Here, this totally blew my mind that you should find yourself a safe shelter, a place under the bed or in the closet. Then eat these biscuits. Close your eyes and eat these biscuits. Congratulations, you're a 3-year-old kid again. Overall, it's quite an expensive business from what I can see. 13.75 for such a small package.
55 ringgit per kilogram, so that's a lot of money.
Here you can read the whole brand. It looks like this. Actually, my sweetheart used to eat something like this as a kid, and I absolutely like it. They're not too sweet. They're great, crunchy, and have a very pleasant taste. It's hard to describe. If you ever visit, you definitely have to buy something like this. However, in small shops you can buy them much cheaper because they're also made more traditionally in some places. Ants, spiders, geckos, and even snakes appreciate dark and quiet hiding spots. Closed shoes left on the ground could be an ideal shelter for them. By placing such footwear on an elevated surface, we significantly reduce the risk of unwanted guests nesting in our shoes. On the other hand, open footwear is less attractive as a hiding place, so it can be left on the ground. Dear travelers, this episode ends a bit sooner than usual, but I have a great reason for that. Well, the next one will start right away with a visit to my parents' new home. We'll talk about the costs of buying such a property, about solar panels, electricity prices, and many other fascinating topics. You've been waiting for this episode for a long time, but don't forget to leave an appropriate like under this one as well. The next episode is coming soon at www.techmaniacd.pl and on the YouTube playlist, which you can find in the link in the description.